This
Hi
conference
guys.
will now be recorded.
Hi guys. Good evening. Welcome back. And sorry, please pardon me for my voice. I'm having a very bad throat. So yeah. So welcome back, and I hope you guys did not. We haven't met last week, so you guys are still in touch with Okta. And if in case you guys feel that something wasn't clear, please feel free to come up, and we can discuss that. As I've discussed with Rakesh, so we'll have 2 2 hour session this week. We have got a lot of things to cover, so we'll try to cover by end of this week, and let's see how we move forward. So I'll be sharing my screen, and we'll resume from where we left last time. And if in case you guys are not up with the course, or you feel that something wasn't clear, you can just reach out to me, and we can discuss that. So just let me know once my screen is visible. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. Okay, guys. So last time in Okta we have reached here till profile editor. We did discuss about the directory wherein we understood how do we create people, how do we create groups, how we can go ahead and create demo rules, and in people also we understood how can we add people in different ways. Now our next target is to understand what is profile editor, and that's where we are right now. We started with this, the Okta default application. We tried to understood what mappings are in, what kind of profiles we have here in Okta. So we tried to understood like what all base attributes we have in Okta and what all custom attributes we can create in Okta. So if we have a need to create any custom attribute which is not there by default in Okta, we can just go ahead and create a custom attribute. So that's what like we would like to understand. Like there are two types of user profiles. One is the Okta user profile and the other is the application user profile. So first we'll try to understand what is Okta user profile. It's basically a logical representation of a user in Okta, which is already known as an Okta account. And it's comprising of two sets, which is the base attributes and the custom attributes. So this is like, we have a base attribute and a custom attribute. Okta has defined 31 default base attributes for all the users in an organization. So these are all our, the base attributes. They are 31 in number, and they are by default available for all the users in an organization. Whether you want it or you don't want it, by default these attributes are created in within an organization for any user, right? So if in case we add or onboard a user, so we'll have these 31 by default attributes. And now if in case you require an attribute which is not present here in Okta, you can just go ahead and create a custom attribute. So that's what Okta has defined 31 default base attributes for all users in an organization, and these are generally fixed and cannot be modified or removed. So if in case you want to see here, right? So if in case you see username, you don't have that option to disable it or enable it or modify it. So that's why. But if in case you go ahead and create some custom attributes, we have the options either to delete it or modify it, because these are something which has been created by us. So that's why we can create or delete them. And there are two exceptions: first name and last names. They can be marked as required or optional for Okta mastered users only. Okay, so see, this is like over here. If you go right, and if in case you see first name and last name, what they are saying is like they can be marked as optional, like they can be edited in the format that we can decide whether this attribute can is required or not. You cannot delete it for sure, but you have the option either to make it compulsory while creating a user in Okta, or not compulsory. And this is only for Okta mastered users. Like, I'm not talking about, if in case you remember, we did discuss this, right? Like, we have Okta mastered users, we have directory mastered users, then we have application mastered users. So Okta mastered users are those users which are created directly in Okta, either through an API, either through a CSV file, either through, manually going to people and creating a user. They all are Okta mastered users. So for those users, we can come in and we can decide whether we require first name or last name as the mandatory attributes or not. So by default, right now, first name, last name, email, username, and login. These 4 or 5 attributes are like mandatory attributes which we require for all the Okta mastered users. Like while creating a user, if I go back now over here, so while creating a user, if in case I don't give this, if in case I just give maybe test at the rate Gmail, and I don't give this, so I won't be able to uh, save the user, because and what all fields are do I have it as mandatory: first name, last name, and email. So that's why these 4 attributes are mandatory for us. If we do not have these 4, we cannot create a user here in Okta. So that's what it says, like, if in case we want that we want to make a attribute not mandatory, then first name and last name we can just go ahead and make it not mandatory. For username, you can see that it's disabled. We cannot go in and make it not required. And same goes for the primary email also. We cannot just go in and say it's not required. But for first name and last name, you come in and you have that option as enabled, yes. So you can just make it uh, non-mandatory, and it won't ask you to enter the value of first name while creating a user. So initially, Okta has had a different custom Okta interface, so that's why you see something like this. But right now, also, like, we have pretty much the same over here only. Like, if you just see, so these are all our base attributes, and then we have our custom attributes, and so we just like, these are the simple steps which we have to follow. Click on Okta and click on profiles to in action columns for the user profiles. So basically, you can just come into the profile editor, like the way to navigate to this Okta user profiles, and then just filter on Okta and go to the Okta user profile. You can have multiple user profile actually, while creating a user, or while like, if in case over here we come back now, so we get an option. Actually, right now we are creating a person, so that's why we don't get that option. But while creating an application, there is a user type which is associated with everything. So we can just go ahead and give a user type or an application type. So these are all the application types. Okay, so I mean, this is like Okta is a user type application over here in profile editor, which has different attributes and custom attributes. So we can just choose those, and this is how we navigate. Like, I hope, because I see that you guys have already created some custom attributes over here, so you guys are aware of the fact, like, how do we create custom attributes. Also, we did discuss this last time, that how do we create it. Now we have different types of data types. Maybe we should understand that. So basically, Okta is having 8 different admissible data types. String is something which we guys are already using. You can see this, that all of the attributes whichever we have created is having a data type of string. In fact, all the attributes which are created by default in Okta is also having a string value. So by default, we have, a chain of zero, I mean, a string data type assigned or allotted to all the variables or to all the attributes created in Okta. It's basically a chain of 0 or more Unicode characters, like, consisting of letters, digits, or punctuation marks. So I hope you guys are aware of what string data type is. If in case no, so it's basically, it can contain anything, like, be it a digit, be it a number, I mean a letter, or special characters, combination of everything. like like you can just write a simple sentence, my name is Vibhor, so that it's a string, right? So that's what a string data type is, and all of these values over here which we see are in the string data type format. Then next we have number. Next, as the number says, like the data type number, then the value of that attribute has to be a number. Like if you give number data type to age, so then age cannot be, say 70 is your age, so you cannot write SEVENTY. You have to write 70, right? So number is something like a floating point decimal in Java 64-bit double format. And if in case you guys are not aware of these data types, you can just you can just check these data types on Google, or I can just provide you the link to from where you can check these. But for the time being, I think as the name suggests, they're pretty much self-explanatory. Boolean is something like a data type where we can only store true or false, or null value. So if in case this is true, then true or false, only two values are there in the Boolean data type. So integer is again a number, although this time it's not a decimal number. Integer has to be something like a whole number only. You cannot have 55.8 as the integer data type. It will be a number data type. If you want to have 55.8, then go with number data type. If you're pretty much sure that you cannot have a number in the form of decimal, then just go ahead with the integer data type. Then date is something which only stores the calendar dates and times, so that is the data type. Array of string is like the collection of strings. So array is basically set of data which can store multiple set of data in the form of cells, and that's why array of string is like sequential collection of strings. You can have multiple strings created, like my name is Vibhor, my age is this, my designation is this, my occupation is this, and I can store all of this information of Vibhor in a array called Vibhor. So this will be an array of strings which is stored in an array. I mean, sorry, sequential of strings which is stored in an array. Same goes with number. Again, it's a sequential collection of numbers. So if I want to just talk about my numbers, so I can create Vibhu's numbers. What is my age? How far I live from my hometown and stuff like that. So all can be collected in a single array. I mean, all can be stored in a sequential format, and that is called an array of in number. Array of integer is exactly the same thing. The only difference with array of number is that like it will be whole number, that will be the decimal format. And country code is something like like +91 for India, +92 for Pakistan, plus 63 for I think +61 or 62 for Australia. So whatever is a country code, we can just store it in the country code data type. So this is like a special data type which we have in Okta. I mean, not a standard data type. Like we can't find this data type everywhere. Basically, the data type is like a string only, but this will only store a country code. Like whatever country codes are there we have in the world, all are being defined in this data type. So you cannot just put in anything as a country code. It will validate whether it's a correct country code or not, and then it will allow you to store the value. So validation is there in each of the data type whatever we are seeing here. Like even a string, if you put I mean, in string you can put anything, be it a number, digit, or so it won't really matter. But for number, if you are putting something like I am good, so it will validate that this is not a number and it will give you an error. Same goes for Boolean. If it is not true or false value, it will give you a error. Integer, date also, like if in case you are giving something a string over there as a date, it won't accept. You have to give date as date over there. And I mean, there is a format to give the date DDMMYYY or MMDDYYY, but that has to be in the form of a date. So that's what it says. Like it requires 4 bytes in ISO 8601 format. So you can just go through these links, and you can understand. Although this is something to do with data types, it's not exactly that you need to have a very good knowledge of what data types are here. Mostly you are going to work with string, number, or integer. That's it. Hardly you will work with either Boolean or date, and array very less, and the country code I don't think so anytime it will come. But why do we need to understand them is because we should know like what Okta supports. So if in case tomorrow you are being asked to do something which requires this kind of stuff, so you are at least aware of the fact that we have this capability in Okta to achieve it. So that's why it's important for you to understand each and every data type. And yeah, I mean, let's go ahead to Okta and see what all data types we have. So we can see we have a string, we have a number, boolean, integer, string array, number array, integer array, and language code is there, and linked object. So initially we did not have country, language code and linked object. Now there is an data type known as language code and linked object. Language code, I think, is something like there is a code associated with every language, like for English en, and for Hindi some other code. For different languages are going to have a different code. So that's what the language code will, I think, will help us to do whatever languages we have around the world. So it will just have a, every language will have a code, and we can just use that. And object is something like a set of data in the form of the JSON. So JSON is a JavaScript object model. So what happens over there is like you can have, like for example, if I want to talk about an object, let's say you have an object named as yourself. Okay, like if I talk, Vibhor is an object, and Vibhor can have different attributes. So within an object, there could be different attributes. So Vibhor has his email, Vibhor has his first name, Vibhor has his last name. So Vibhor has everything. So object, like for example, I have defined Vibhor as like let's just assume that the object name is this is the object name Vibhor. So and attributes which Vibhor has is, let's assume, first name and last name. Okay, and maybe email as well. Now if I want to retrieve the value of these attributes, so I will write something like this: Vibhor dot first name. This will give me the value which is Vibhor. Then if I require my email, so I will write this, which will give me again my value, which is again my email. So maybe so something like this. So it's basically what is happening is that there is an object which is associated with different attributes. See over here, whatever data type you are seeing, right, like different data types, they can contain only one value. You have an array that can contain multiple value in the sequential format, but an object is completely different. An object is like it has its own root, like it's kind of a binary tree structure. It's not in the sequential format. It's like if in case, for example, here in array, if you want to retrieve the data, it will be like let's call this as Vibhor. Okay, and this will be, so if I want to get the first name, I need to know the cell number. I cannot like maybe first name is there in this cell, so I need to get it in the sequential format. If in case my second last name is in this, so I need to get it in sequential format. Over here, if this is an object, you can get it in this format. There is no sequential over here. There is no sequence over here. But over here you need to know the sequence in which they are stored so that you can retrieve the value. But over here you don't need to understand like what sequence is there. Even if you don't know the sequence, but you know what value you need to retrieve, you can just know the object name and then the dot that value, attribute name, and you will get the value of that object. So that's what the difference between these two data types are. So yeah, basically this is what Okta data types are. Now moving on, yeah, before I move on, any doubts over here, like what is an Okta user profile and what are the different Okta data types which we have?
So if you create like a Okta data type using like a array string, right? For example, so you can give any value, right? For first name, you can give any value. Last name, you can give a number also. It will take, right? If it, because that data type is array string.
Correct.
Okay. So usually we'll create only those like a string and integer and number, right, sir?
Right. Mostly it
Okay,
will be
so
like most of the time string, but here and there you might get a chance to create number data type as well. Yeah.
okay, okay. Number. What is the difference between number and integer? So integer only like a whole value, right, sir?
Yes.
97, 67, like that. So number means you can give 67.01 kind of thing, right, sir?
Correct. 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 Yeah.
Okay,
So
okay.
basically, like, sometimes in an organization, like, since we are talking about a user, so in Okta, we have, the salary digits also considered as an attribute. So over there, we need to have, like, salary can be considered as, has to be considered as your, a number, not an integer, because most of us gets our salary in dot something as well. If in case, like, no one in the organization gets, then it's fine, just go ahead and, do with the integer number and with the integer data type. But if in case, like, salaries are being credited to the accounts wherein decimals are there, so in those scenarios we require a number. And sometimes, we require it for some calculations also, like, maybe some calculations are being required, and we know that, the outcome of those calculations will be in the format of numbers only, like in the format of decimal. So then we go ahead with numbers data type. But if in case we are 100% sure never ever we are going to have the decimals in the picture, then we can go ahead with integers data type.
So, but we never used objects, right, sir? So, because I didn't visualize the objects part, right? Data type is objects. So, like
Hmm.
we can give either character or numeric, doesn't matter. Objects, same thing.
No, actually, objects are like, basically it's like the concept of class and an object. Like, so if in case you guys are aware of what class is, I did not get deep into, like, the object part. I tried to make it as simple as possible for you to understand. Object is, basically a child of a class. Okay, so class is like, for example, it's a blueprint. So let's assume that people is your class. Okay, let's assume, like, you have these two terminologies, one is class, one is object. So, like, for example, humans are a class. Like, okay, we can just categorize that, humans are a class, and under which you have different objects. So, you can have maybe male as an object, female as an object, trans as an object, and, different objects under humans. Now under males, if we are considering males as an object, so under males we can have different attributes. Okay, maybe their personality. I mean, like, I'm not getting deep into it, but like whatever we can have different attributes for male, we can have different attributes for female, we can have different attributes for all of the genders what we have, right? So that's how it is, like. But the what is the topmost thing which we have, that is humans as a class. So that's why over here, if you see that, we get to see that it's a linked object. It's not just an object, because it's being linked to certain class. Okay, and that class is something like, which is Okta over here. Okay, Okta is an application, I mean, the profile which we have, and that is actually having the, the different objects which we can create on our own, and to those different objects we can create different attribute. But yeah, I mean, as you have said that we won't require this much, but like it's more important for you to just understand right now what's an object and what's a class, and in what scenarios which we can use this object. But mostly it will be, we'll be working with either string, integers, or like, maybe number, or at max I think that boolean values. Boolean are used because, like, sometimes uh, for certain organizations what they do is like they make an attendance system in Okta only. So every day they can just make that value as true, not an attendance. I think there is like active or inactive value. So whether a user is part of an organization, they keep a value name as active attribute value as active, and it is the value of that attribute active is yes till the user is in the organization, and the moment the user leaves the organization it becomes no. So that's like a boolean value. So if it is yes, it is true. If it is no, it is false. So that time we can just go ahead and create a boolean value. But yeah, that's how the data types are.
Okay, what is the attributes, sir? Attributes are like what are the things we are giving first name, last name, those are attributes.
Yes, these are all attributes. Whatever we see in here, right? So they are all attributes. So basically, the character of anything which we can define as an attribute. So basically, like what are we doing here? We are talking about individuals. I mean the identities which we have in Okta, and for them we want to retrieve the information, different type of information. So those different type of information can be retrieved using attributes. So that's what attributes are.
Yeah, got it. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so now we'll move on to the application user profile. We have just seen what Okta user profile is. Basically, Okta user profile is something only which which are basic those user profiles which are created in Okta. So like any identity or a user created in Okta would be having an Okta user profile. Now we'll talk about the application user profile. So it basically represents a user in the third party application directory or an identity provider. The app user profile lists the third party's attributes that Okta can read or write. This profile is used to control the attribute that Okta pushes to an app or the attribute imported from an app into Okta. Okay. So what we are trying to say over here is basically an application user profile is a representation of a user in a third party application. Okay. So first thing what we understand from this particular statement is that that user is created in a third party application. That user is not created within Okta right now. So this is not a Okta mastered user. It is a third party application. So the third party application could be either your directory or an application or an identity provider. Okay, so I did mention this before also that Okta can act as a service provider also. 99% of the times Okta would be your identity provider, wherein you'll use Okta as to authenticate or verify you, and then from there you will be just redirecting back to the application. But that doesn't mean that Okta cannot support other identity providers. Like you can add Google as an identity provider in Okta, and then you can just leverage the services of Okta. Like if in case you have different applications integrated in Okta, so you can just add Google as an IDP, and then what will happen is that you will be authenticated, you will be verified through Google, and the moment you are being verified, you can just get into any application of Okta directly. You don't have to, Okta will not authenticate you again. So that's how the IDP works if in case we want to add it. So there is a altogether a different configuration to, add in Okta in order to make Google as an IDP, or, LinkedIn as an IDP, or Twitter, or, different social media platforms which we have. So yeah, so what I was talking about is that basically an app user profile is we are talking about a user which is created in a third party application, and it lists the attributes that Okta can read and write from the IDP. So what happens is like over here if we see, right, so we have different attributes and we can just read and write on these attributes. But if we talk about the applications, so let's go back to the applications now. So see, this is our IDB which we are just talking about, developer registration SSO. This is like by default created. This is not something I have created, and these are all the applications. These are the applications because we have created these applications. So we can see that we have these applications over here. So if I just want to go ahead with any of the application, we can see that by default there is no base or custom attribute over here. Why don't we have any base or custom attribute? Because those attributes have to be retrieved if in case we require over here from the application. And whatever applications we have integrated with, we don't have any control on the application side. We are not application admins. We have integrated in such a way that which require minimal efforts for us to, put in something on the application side and then make the SSO work. Okay, so we are not the application admins over here for any of the application. Hence, I cannot show you that, how do we have the application attributes being imported in Okta. So that's why you see this as default. I mean, as nothing. Username is something I think we might have given for this particular application. Like if I just go into the Salesforce. Okay, yeah. Username is there because it's like a default attribute for each of the application, because we what we have selected over here in applications is any application. If I talk about, no, so if in case I just want to talk about Salesforce, so over here what we are doing is that we are giving this as the username, Okta username, and this we are giving it for all the application. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but this is being given for all the applications, for all of them. We can still go ahead and change it. We have different options over here. We can just go ahead and give it a custom email, but by default we keep it as Okta username only. So that's why this becomes like a default attribute which we give by for all the applications. So if we just go back to this particular application now, you'll see that username would be there, and we cannot change that, like it's not required, because if in case we don't give username, no, so then what is happening is that we are not sending any parameter from Okta to the service provider, which means that there would be nothing for the service provider to identify for which user am I talking about. Okay, so that's why we require one unique attribute to be there, and that unique attribute is like username for all the applications which we have integrated till now. So yeah, so this is a username, and if I go back now, so basically what we are saying here is that the application user profile, it can list the third party application attributes that Okta can read or write, and for IDP it can just read. For IDP it cannot write an attribute. So if I go back to the IDP one, so this is like a default IDP being created by Okta itself. It says developer registration SSO user. So it's like a default Okta IDP. And over here we see that we have all these custom I mean default attributes, like your first name, last name, external ID, email, display name, preferred username, and stuff like that. So for them we have some default attributes. This is not something what we have created. Again, I'm repeating, this is something what has been created by Okta itself. They have their own IDP. They recognize this IDP as Okta's IDP. We can get Google's IDP also integrated with Okta. So, and if in case we are generating, I mean creating different IDPs and integrating them with Okta, so in those scenario we'll just have it, we can have different IDBs created, and then for them we can have different profile editors, like the mappings, or the attributes which we can have. So this is used to control the attributes that Okta pushes to an app, or the attributes imported from an app into Okta. So now there are two scenarios over here. So while integration, we can either go ahead and push these attributes from Okta to the application. So over here, right, you must be remembering I did mention this thing, like if in case we just go to this application and we want to give attributes. Okay, I think this is an OIDC one, so let's not talk about OIDC right now. But for example, let's go to any inactive app and maybe this one. So over here, you might be remembering, yeah, these are the attributes. See, like these are the attributes which are being pushed from Okta to the application. Okay, and then we can have an import option which will help us to import application from the, I mean the attributes from the application to the Okta. Okay, so it's like both way. You can have attributes being pushed from from Okta to the application, and then you can have application to Okta as well. So whatever attributes you have in Okta, that you can just bring into the application by sending them in this way, uh, yeah, in this way, like what we are doing. And if in case we want to get the attributes from application to Okta, then we can just go ahead and import that data and we'll get it. Okay, so we have got couple of ways to do that. And I mean, couple of not ways to do that, couple of things to, either we can bring in the attributes or send in the attributes, and those attributes would be something which we can, see in here. We can either create an attribute and add an attribute over here, and that will just help us to send back. I think, see, test Pranjal, yeah. So this user has got couple of attributes. See, uh, user by default, and I think this is a custom attribute that has been created for this particular application only. Now, see, if in case we come in and we just create an application attribute over here now, so this cannot be used universally for all the application. Like Okta training is an attribute being created within this profile editor, which is test Pranjal user. So this is an application which we have in Okta, and for this we have created a Okta training. So but this attribute can only be used with this application, it cannot be used with all the other application. So we need to understand, like, if in case we require our scope to be minimized, that we don't require an attribute to be created which can be used anywhere for everything, or so in that scenario, just come in and create an attribute and then do the mappings over here. So similar to the Okta user profiles, app user profiles have also base attributes and the custom attributes. Custom attributes for app user profiles differ from those from the Okta user profiles, whereas Okta user profiles can be extended with any custom attribute. The app user profiles can only be extended with attributes from a predefined list that Okta dynamically generates. Okta generates a list of attributes by querying the third-party applications or the directory of the supported attribute. Yeah, so that's true actually. So what we are trying to say over here is that over there in the Okta profile editor, we can just go ahead and create any kind of an attribute. But for these particular applications, we cannot just go ahead and create all kind of an attribute, like the base attribute I'm talking about. The reason being, what it will do is that Okta is going to do a query to the application, and it will try to find out what all attributes we can create. Like for example, if we are like an active, we do not have an active directory right now, but when if in case we want to have an active directory being created, I mean, if in case we have an active directory being integrated with our environment, in those scenarios, Okta will make a query to the active directory, and you'll see one active directory application over here as well. It will make a query to that active directory, and it will try to understand what all attributes are there in AD, and what all things should I bring in Okta. You cannot just go ahead and create anything for active directory. So that's what I try. That's what we mean by the app profile, and that's how it is different from Okta user profile, that they both can have base and custom attributes. That's like a common thing. But custom attributes for app user profiles differ from those of the Okta user profiles. In Okta user profile, you can just go ahead and create anything. But for app user profiles, it can only be extended from attributes from a predefined list that Okta dynamically generates. And how is it generated in Okta? It is being generated when Okta queries the third-party application or directory for any supported attribute. So Okta will be querying those applications. It will understand what all application, I mean, data type, or what all attributes can be supported with this application, and accordingly it will allow you to create here in Okta. So that's what an app user profile is. Yeah. So we've seen Okta user profile, and now we have just seen the app user profile. So in app user profile, just one thing I want to touch upon is like there is mappings over here. For Okta user profiles, you would have seen that there is no mappings. You just have an option to either add an attribute. Okay, so we just talk about adding an attribute, no mappings over here. But for let's talk about this OIDC application. Yeah, so it will have an add attribute mappings over here. So what does this mapping means now? So what we are trying to say is that this is like an Okta user profile, and this is my application user profile. What all things do we require, to be sent from application to Okta? This is like, application to Okta, and this is like from our Okta to the application. Okay, so I do not have any other attribute right now for this user profile in Okta, so I can map it. But if in case I can create new attributes and I can just start, mapping those. So, but this is like, opposite. This is like username is being set by Salesforce, and that is being mapped to our login over here. So basically, you can, just go in and map anything, and it will just allow you to maybe, for example, app. This is like, again I'm repeating, this is like application to Okta. So, and that's why you see app user dot username. If it would have been Okta to application, then you will be seeing user dot username. I did mention this topic before that, they are two different things. Like app user, we use app user when we are talking about app user profile, and we use user dot when we are when we are talking about Okta user profile. So wherever you will see that, an app user, in those scenarios, just, make sure that you have it. I mean, so over here, what's happening is like we just have one attribute from the application right now, which is the username. So that therefore you don't get any option right now. You just see that, there is just one attribute from application. Let's assume there would have been two, three attributes. I think we have an application, I think, wherein we have couple of attributes. Let's go to that application. This one. So let's assume that I need to do the mapping. Over here, I'll be having couple of attributes, like Okta training or, Okta username. So I can just, map any of these values to my first name in Okta. So what will happen is when this user will be imported from the application to Okta, it will have first name as the app user dot username. So if in case that has Pranjal as the first, app username dot username has Pranjal as the value, Okta will also take Pranjal as a value for the first name. So that's what this mapping means. Now this is interesting. This says either do not map or apply mapping on user create only. So this means like at the time of creation only, this mapping will be applicable. If in case user already exists in Okta, this mapping will not be applicable. But if in case user is not created in Okta and it will be created for first time in Okta, at that time it will take this mapping into existence. And do not map means that nothing, we don't require anything to be mapped, so it's fine. We can just, leave it empty. So, this is the mappings concept. If in case you guys are, clear with this, just let me know. And if in case something is not clear over here on the mappings part, just let me know as well before we move on to the next topic.
So, like, if you are getting that user profile, right? Like application user profile. So,
Hmm.
like, we are importing from application, right? Sir? Like all the data, whatever attributes we are getting from the application, right?
Right, right.
Yeah, yeah. So application. So, like, so how we map that, right? So before importing, we need to map it, right? Like, okay, there. So we need to put a query to the application. So what are the attributes they have? And we have Okta has 34 attributes. So we need to map those first before importing,
So your
right?
voice is breaking, buddy. I mean,
Okay.
little bit. Yeah.
Okay. Now you can hear me.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, like, first we query from the application, right? What are the attributes the application has? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so then we need to map it first to Okta attributes. Then we can download it, right? Then we can import it.
No, actually, import. What we are trying to do here is like if we talk about the steps, no. So basically, Okta would be dynamically creating a query on its own. We don't have to write that. Like the moment that integration happens with the application, automatically Okta will try to understand what are the attributes that application has if Okta has the permissions to do it. If in case Okta doesn't have the permissions to do it, Okta cannot do anything because like this is something confidential we are talking about. So if in case we have done the integration, application has given the access to the to Okta to just go ahead and do the query, then we'll have those application attributes populated in Okta, and now we can just go ahead and do the mapping. Like we want, like, okay, 5 new users will be created from this Active Directory in Okta today. So for those 5 new users, we want to map, like, what all should be the value in Okta, for like the attribute value in Okta for those 5 new users which will be created in Okta today. They are coming from Active Directory, but since those 5 new users are coming from Active Directory, they'll be created in Okta today. So we want to understand that, we want to map the value of those users. So in that scenario, we'll just have the attributes which will say that, okay, our first name should be equivalent to what this value has it in Active Directory. Let's assume that Active Directory has first name as only name. So we'll say that app user dot name should be the first name value in our Okta. Now last name. Let's suppose that Active Directory has surname as that attribute. We said that app user dot surname should be equivalent to our last name in Okta. So something like that. So, and it can be opposite also. This is like from application to Okta, and this will be an Okta to application. So we can just also map it from Okta to application also. We can just tell them that, okay, these are all the set of attributes we have, and at the time of creation of the user on the application side, you can just keep these values. Like first name should be, we are sending, like, maybe first name as first name something over here. So this will be user dot first name. So I have all these values in Okta, so that's why I've got so many options to put in. So like user dot Okta training, and now this has one more mapping saying that it can be either applied on user creation or update. So whenever a user is created or updated, we can just have this mapping, or only apply this mapping when the user is created, or just do not map it. So that's how it works. So we can have both ways. The only thing what we need to understand is that mappings are being created. If in case from application to Okta mapping is created, we require it only at the time of creation for application to Okta. And for Okta to the application, we require it either at the time of creation or the update. So that's the difference. So mappings are generally, being used for us to understand, or that because one user is going to have two accounts, one in the application, one in Okta. So that user should have same values, no, at least like on both the sides. So that's where this mappings concept comes into existence.
Okay. Uh, so this user profile mappings and all, like not mapping. So we are getting from the application, right, sir? So we are getting the people from the whatever people, instead of we are creating from Okta, we are getting all the data from application, right, sir? Then
Yeah, yeah.
based on that, we can create the user groups or whatever rules, and also we will do it. So basically, whatever we are getting from the application is people, right, sir?
Correct. Identities.
Identities.
Yeah.
So then once we get the identities, then based on the requirement, we'll create the user groups and all other things, right?
Yes, yes.
User group. Okay,
Right, right.
got it. Thank you. Thank
Okay. Perfect then. So next, we'll just quickly see that this thing about self-service, which enables users to reset their own password. So basically, this is very simple thing, nothing, difficult to do. I mean, nothing difficult to understand. What we are trying to, say that right now we have an option here in Okta that, users do not have that liberty to reset their own password. Like, I mean, this is up to us. Like the Okta admins can decide whether they want their users to reset their own password, or they want, a support ticket to be created, and then, from there only Okta admins can do it. Okay, so we have got three ways to enable self-service for their end users. Either we can have a group password policy, maybe an organization-wide password policy, or a delegated authentication. Okay, so if in case we come here, right? So just try to understand this. No, actually this is not that. So what we are trying to say is that we can just go ahead and create different password policies. One could be a group password policy, other could be an organization password policy, or a delegated authentication. So in group password policy, we can what we can do is like over here. I mean, this is something to be covered over in security and password policies. So if in case I go to authentication. And yeah, so over. Okay, yeah, add a new password policy. So over here, I have an option to self-service recovery SMS. So if in case I disable it, so then we cannot have a self-service stuff. Sorry guys, actually there is someone outside. We'll take a quick 5 minutes break because anyways we'll have a 1 hour session today, one more hour to cover, and we'll come back. Is that fine? I mean, 5 minutes from here we'll take a break.
No, today only 1 hour session, sir. Weekdays only 1 hour session because it's already 11 o'clock, right? So
Oh, is it?
only weekends, weekends only we told that Saturday, Sunday, 2 hours because it's already 11 o'clock night.
Hmm. Okay, but
So if you take
okay.
2 hours, it will go to 12 o'clock, right?
Okay. Okay, fine then. So basically, I was talking about this policy stuff. So we'll talk this policy stuff more when we get into the security tab, because this will just mix up things right now. So we are currently in
No,
this direct.
sir,
Mhm.
we will ask everyone like if they are okay, I'm also okay. So we'll ask everyone is okay for 2 hours. I'm good. So, because I don't want to talk on that. So everyone,
Okay.
everybody, like if you have any questions on, are you okay with for 2 hours?
It's just we were not told beforehand that it will be 2 hour sessions this week's onward.
That's fine. Maybe for today we can just have it 1 hour. You guys can decide, among yourselves that, if it is fine for you to extend it, because our aim is to, we did not have any class last week. And so, Rakesh told me that we are going to have 2 hour sessions every day this week. And hence, I was under that impression that because around 10 to 12 hours is required for us to complete Okta now. So we are targeting, next 6 days, like we need to cover at least 12 hours so that, we cover the complete syllabus. So for today, it's fine. If in case you guys were not informed, so you can just, we can just, keep it for 1 hour, and then like you can just decide whether it's fine for you to, extend it 2 hours every day. And if not, then, during the weekend, we need to extend it. Won't be 2 hours. We might need to have, 2 2 hour sessions 2 times a day, because we might need to
Yeah, that is
cover the
too much, sir. Yeah, that is too much. Yeah, I think
yeah.
4 hour
So
session at a time is like, yeah, we will tell Rakesh, no problem.
yeah,
You know,
that's fine.
maybe he can extend next week. Maybe that is okay. 1 hour session. So
Okay, yeah.
if you are hurrying, right? So we won't get anything. So
Hmm.
basically, just completing the syllabus is not the aim. Right? We need to absorb also.
Yeah. No, actually, like that's what I have done till now. Like, I've gone slowly only, like nothing have I
Okay, yeah.
rushed, whatever. Yeah. So
Yeah, sure,
we
sure, sir. We will talk to Rakesh and
yeah,
other people. Yeah, you go your slow only. Like if you hurry up,
yeah, that's fine. Okay, so mappings is something which we have already seen. So we'll just talk about mappings once. So basically, if we talk about profile mappings, I mean, mappings or profile mappings allow the administrators to precisely control the attributes exchanged during the provisioning process. So basically, what we are saying is that it allows the administrator to control the attributes which are being exchanged during our provisioning. So we did see, right, like at the time of creation of the user, we are doing certain mappings. Over here, we did mention that, if in case we go back to this profile editor and, this particular no, not over here to the applications, because Okta profile editor does not require mappings. But yeah, over here, like, if I go to this application, then in the mappings tab, I have the option to, apply mapping on user create only. So what is the user create? It's a provisioning stuff. So that's what this means, that, it allows the administrator to precisely control the attributes being exchanged during the provisioning process. For a list of apps that integrate particularly well with Universal Directory, applications supporting profile mapping, the two chief use cases that Universal Directory facilitates are app to Okta or Okta to app. So this is something which we have seen, whether like it is either from Okta to application or application to the Okta. In the first use case, that is from application to the Okta, organizations typically use a source of truth app such as directory or human resources system, and some organizations might have several sources of truth. Mapping define how attribute from these various sources are imported into Okta user profile. So as I mentioned before, the example of Active Directory which I was giving. So, basically we are going to have Active Directory or HRMS system, being integrated with Okta. We might not have, different applications like, what we can still have it. There is nothing like an hard and fast rule, but I'm just talking about those practical use cases. I'm talking about maybe interview stuff which you will be asked, like, you won't be asked interviews like in interview you might not be asked, okay, you an application integrated, and tell me how do you do the profile mapping. You might be asked it for the directories, like, you have an Active Directory integrated, so do you think that attributes can be exchanged, and if yes, then how can you do it? This could be an exact question which can be asked to you, during an interview. So you need to understand, that Active Directory is also an application for us. LDAP directory is also an application. Whatever you see in Okta, that, apart from Okta itself, that is an application for you, be it an IDP, be it an Active Directory, be it an application itself. All is like a third party tool. So we consider all of them as an application. So all of them would be, that's why we only have two profiles. One is app user profile, other is Okta user profile. So, anything under directories or IDPs or application would be considered as app user profile, and anything on the Okta side would be considered as Okta user profile. So that's why, in the, like, there could be many organizations which have multiple source of truth. Source of truth is like, they can have different directories being integrated with our Okta, and in those scenarios there would be mappings which we have to define, like, which will help us to understand like how the attributes are flowing from one source to the other, like from the application to Okta, how are those attributes being flowed, the values of those attributes. So this is basically an, and a use case which is like from app to Okta, which says like, this is our Okta user profile, this is our application user profile, and this is again our Workdays and application user profile. So what we are trying to do is like app to Okta is AD to Okta. So we are saying that whatever you see in red, we are saying that these are being mapped over here, and this is like Workday. This is again app to Okta. So we have got couple of applications which are being integrated with Okta. So what you are doing is like, we are just mapping those profiles to Okta. We are trying to understand, okay, that first name you have to get from given name, last name you have to get from SN, manager name you have to get from Workday. So this is how, a user would be created in Okta, which will help you to understand that, okay, this one user can get, values from multiple sources. Okay, so what is a good thing, what has happened over here is that, you have got a user created in Okta which has got, sources or values coming from different places, like given name and SN came from Active Directory, manager username came from Workday. So, and there is only one user which is, created in Okta. So this user has its, we'll understand that, this can only be done through mappings. Like, we have mapped these things in such a way that this user value created in Okta, it will have appropriate values. Now if in case Active Directory does not have manager value, so what can we do, right? We cannot come into Okta and manually enter the value. So that's why what we have done is that we have done a Workday integration also, like another application integration, which will help you to give the manager name value. So you can have multiple source of truth, and from there you can just, do the mappings to the Okta. So this is like app to Okta. Then Okta to app is oppositely is exactly opposite. Like you have got first name, last name, boss, email, username, and now you are just trying to send these values to application. So like maybe this is the name of your attribute in Okta. This is the name of your attribute in Google application. They just mapping them. That first name is equivalent to name given name, last name is equivalent to name family name, boss is equivalent to relations manager value, email is equivalent to username, and stuff like that. So it's basically this is allowing you to uh, your application to understand what value it has to give while a user is being provisioned. Okay, at the time of creation or at the time of authentication, you need to give a value to the application for it to understand whether it's a legitimate user or not. So though at that time mapping is required, which helps Okta and the third party applications to communicate between them, saying that this is the value of this attribute I have, you take this value and put it in your attribute. So that's what Okta to app means, and app to Okta is like opposite. From the application, we'll be getting the values to Okta. So now we are going to have expressions last, which is like something I think we should cover tomorrow, because we have already completed 1 hour for the day. So I think better to start this topic tomorrow. That is expressions. We have been using this, like we have been using simple expressions, to be honest, from a very long time now. I did mention, like in applications also, while we were doing, I told you that we'll have a separate session for the expressions, Okta expression language class. So and over here also, if you would have seen, like during the mappings, what we saw was like user dot something or app user dot something over here, right? So I get to see this thing as app user dot. Why do we write this? Is something it's part of an Okta expression language. And also it's we have got, whenever we use expression language, Okta always give you that a link to see what their expression language is all about. So we can just talk about this topic tomorrow. It's very easy, to be honest. Nothing we need to understand in depth. Like whatever we have understood till now, I think it will be very easy for us to understand what it exactly means. But why we haven't covered this, because for us to understand this topic, we wanted to understand what an app user profile is and what an Okta user profile is, because that's how these expression languages operate. We need to have a class, and then an object maybe. See, this an Okta user profile you can consider as an object, because I did mention right over here that it's Vibhor dot first name. Now every time you will see that app user dot something, app user dot something, user dot something. So that Okta user profile or an app user profile is itself an object in Okta. Like uh, like while the code for, like, see, Okta is a product, right? And there are developers in Okta who is writing a code to develop this product, right? So the developers of Okta themselves has written a code in which they have considered a profile as an object. Okay, so that's what an object is all about. So that's what so yeah, I mean that's what, like, we wanted to understand what an app user and Okta user profile is, so that it becomes a little bit easy for us to understand what Okta expression language is all about. So tomorrow we are going to see what expression Okta expression language is all about. We are going to see certain lab sessions also. I'll just write certain something like a code, like small script in front of you only, and you'll understand that what all things we can have in what how can we do the mappings with the help of an expression language, and how can we transform data with the help of expression language. So expression language, and I think that would be uh, after this expression, I think we'll move on to the directory integrations tomorrow. So yeah, I
Okay,
think
so
that's
some kind of a practical session like whatever we done today, right? So maybe I don't know. I may get 50% on this because if we done some practical session, maybe I'm not sure for others, but it's like
actually whatever we have done is actually theoretical, to be honest, because like mappings is something like I can show you, like from application to Okta is something like which I cannot again show you. The only issue is we do not have access to the application, like be it an Active Directory or any application like Salesforce, Workday. We do not have our admin accounts created in those applications. So like it becomes a challenge to show it practically over here because we don't have those access. Like even in the in those scenarios, like in the real time scenarios, trust me, you won't be having access to. There would be different teams available for, like you'll have a Workday team, you'll have a Salesforce team, you will be part of the Okta team, you will have an Active Directory team. So you will be just communicating with those people, and communication would mean that you should have this knowledge what we have discussed today. You won't be asking them, okay, just give me the access and I'll do it. It would be them doing it, and then you actually analyzing whatever you wanted. You have got that in Okta. So like wherever practical sessions are are possible, I'm actually taking that into consideration and showing. But over here, trust me, I cannot show you. The reason only is that I do not have any application admin access. So until unless I do not have that, because see, Okta is kind of an more of an access management tool. And when we say more of an access management tool, that requires a handshake between two different parties. So whatever we can do from Okta is something I've already shown you today also. But whatever we have to do from the application side, we don't know that. And in fact, in real time scenarios also, like people might come to you and ask you, okay, what do we have to do over here? You have to give a straightforward answer to them that this is your application and you should be knowing it, because there are more than 7,000 applications which Okta has a connector for, and you cannot know for each of the application what has to be done on their application, because this is like something their application owners or admin needs to know. We as an Okta admin or a developer know what we need to do from our end. So whatever we need to do from our end, like if in case you ask me, like how do we send an attribute from Okta to an application? So if you want, but we have already seen that, but if you want, we can see that, like we can just go to the directory profile editor, and maybe any application, and you just go to the mappings and go to Okta user to the test this. Now this, we have got couple of attributes. Now you want to set this value. So I think just make sure that maybe you are just setting it to user or title, and we are saying apply, and then save the mapping. Now what will happen is that there would be two attributes like flowing from this application, that is from Okta to the test console. So whenever a user would be created in this particular application, you will have these two attribute values going to these two attribute values in the application. Now the thing is, how do I show you the practical for this? The problem is I do not have access to this application. This is like a dummy application which we have created. So I do not have an application access wherein I can just go ahead and create some users, and I can show you, okay, I sent user or title from Okta, so this is the value being populated for this particular attribute over here. So that's the issue. So I can just show you that what all things you can do from your end, but like over here whatever we did today, that is actually like more of theoretical than practical. Like this is something you should be having more knowledge of. I think better you go off like just go through this PPT today, like whatever we have discussed. And if in case you feel that something is not clear, just come up with your doubts, and we'll discuss that tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because the videos also we are not getting until.
Hello, your voice is very feeble again.
Yeah, yeah. So the videos also we are getting very late, So before your start today's video, like we'll get before your class, maybe 1 or 2 hours before. So we don't have
Oh,
much chance to practice. So that's the issue.
oh, okay. Okay, I'll talk
Because
to Rakesh. Yeah. So
yeah,
maybe
so you can
we'll.
provide early, right? So we can have a practice because we are working also, like in the morning. So.
Okay, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. I'll have a discussion with Rakesh on this because actually, see, videos or content is something, I'm not responsible for. I'm just giving it to Rakesh, and
No, no,
Rakesh
no.
is
Yeah, he, he's also doing fast, but it takes some time, half day or something. You need
Mhm. Right,
to
right.
get the video, I think.
Okay. So, yeah, we'll
Yeah,
have a
no,
discussion.
no issues, sir. Yeah, go
Sure.
ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was just saying I'll have a discussion with Rakesh. Also, you guys can have a discussion internally and just let Rakesh know, like, what are the suitable timings, how do we
Yeah.
cover the post? I mean, what all times you are available, and accordingly we need to plan it. So just let Rakesh know about the same. I'll have a discussion with Rakesh today, and accordingly,
Yeah.
we can move forward from tomorrow.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, sir. Okay.
Okay, then I think we are good for the day. Just come up with your doubts tomorrow. Just go through, like, it's more of a theoretical session only today, what we have covered. Just go through each of them, each of the points what we have discussed. Try to go to the Okta environment, see, like, how mappings are done, see how, like, what is an app user profile or an Okta user profile. Once you understand, like, looking at the theory and the corresponding Okta environment, I think you'll be good to
Okay.
go with the mappings and, profile editing.
And one more request, sir, like please,
Yeah,
share the slides also because
I've already
we are
done
not getting
that.
slides. So yeah.
I've already shared these slides with Rakesh.
Okay, sure, sir. Because
Yeah, yeah,
that will be more helpful because it's
yeah,
more theoretical. So we have a slide and video.
yeah, yeah. You can
Okay.
just, start from here today. The Okta user profile, this is where we started. I've already shared these slides with Rakesh, so you should be
Okay.
having it. Or if not, I'll ask him to share it again.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay, then thank you guys. Have a good one. Take care.
Take care.